Hello, everybody. This is The Grind. This is Bryan Fontez, former writer for Low Kick. I am Sunnie James, your typical MMA fan. And this is our first episode, so we're going to be talking about a variety of subjects that have been happening in the sport of MMA lately. And why not just kick it off with UFC 200?
Yeah, and bear with us, this is our very first show, so we're going to do our best. We're knowledgeable in the sport, and we're hardcore fans, but we're going to go through this as quickly and easily and painlessly as possible. So we hope you guys enjoyed the show. So UFC 200. Wow.
The card that never ends, right? It's just the chaos. So just to give a little background to UFC 200, it was originally supposed to be Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz in a rematch. Conor McGregor misses a press conference, which results in Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier being the main event of UFC 200, while kicking Conor and Nate to now what is UFC 202. In that span, about a month before, Brock Lesnar is announced to be the co-main event on the card versus Mark Hunt. When we get to the day before, or two days before, I think, UFC 200, Jon Jones tests...
Almost 24 hours?
Yeah, Jon Jones tests positive for a PED violation. He gets taken off the card. Brock Lesnar and Mark Hunt don't get bumped up to the main event, which normally happens when a main event is taken out.
It was thought that they were going to be.
That's what I thought.
And then I think there was some flack, I guess, from I don't know if it was internal or from fans that the belt shouldn't be treated with such disrespect.
And I can see that argument. So what ended up happening is Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes ended up being the main event. I, as a fan, did not think it was a real main event, and I didn't even stick around for it. That's how much I didn't care for the fight. I know, I didn't really care about the fight. I saw the first 4 fights. Actually, I saw every single fight except that fight left, because I didn't care about the fight. Which is terrible to say, but I mean, I thought Holly should have gotten the rematch. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nunes won, and it was great, but anyway, after the whole debacle of 200. Daniel Cormier did end up fighting. He fought Anderson Silva in the third fight before the co-main. And then, just days later after that, Brock Lesnar tests positive for PEDs. And here we are. This is what we're talking about today.
Not once, but twice.
Yeah, so let's start with Jon Jones. Let's start with what happened there.
So when Jon, I remember we had this discussion, but when Jon tested positive, we both of our initial reactions. All the MMA fans that I have on my phone, all the people that I talk to, my friends. It's literally like
the fuck,
like to the point where you're pissed off at him because you just want to see good fights at this point. You don't care what because even DC felt the same way we did as fans. He literally, his reaction.
Oh man!
Aside from being just distraught, his reaction was, "Can I still fight? Can I still sign a waiver? Can we still make it happen?" And I think that's what we were all hoping was that they could just brush it all past and we could still make it happen and not worry about it, and whatever happens, just for the sake of keeping the event together. But what sucks is, the guy just gets so many chances.
Yeah, I mean,
and the thing that bothers me the most, it really sucks, because I think we're both DC fans, right?
Oh, he's my favorite fighter in the UFC, hands down, bar none.
I
mean, him and Edgar, those are my two favorites. So.
I love the both of them as well.
Talk about embracing the grind. Those guys embody it. So
Jones, Jones is not my favorite human being, but as a fighter, you can't doubt that he's like a work of art to watch.
The greatest, maybe of all time.
For that to happen, it's horrible. It's depressing.
Absolutely.
But the thing that bothered me the most that I was going to say about DC is that I could not stand people booing DC. It made no sense to me, and the reason being is because, I think ultimately it's because people want to see redemption. Yeah. They want to see people who have veered off the straight path. Yeah. And get back on it. And DC, I guess, because he's had a less colorful career as far as as far as strange things happening.
He's a company man.
As far as controversy happening, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So it was I didn't like seeing the disrespect that he was getting, especially after the fight.
Which he dominated. He did exactly what Brock Lesnar did to Mark Hunt.
It's ridiculous.
And, it goes to show that it's not about the fight per se. It's literally they don't like DC.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. The thing about Jon Jones for me is that I started following the sport in 2011. In 2011, I just come back from India and I watched Shogun get dismantled by Jon Jones on a highlight reel that played, I think, on Fox Sports. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And I just started following the sport. And I found out that night, Jon Jones actually saved a woman from being mugged. He detained somebody.
Yeah, ran him down,
and
chased
then
him, like it was a GPS.
And then won the title. So this guy kind of seemed like a superhero of some sort, a good Samaritan. And he went from literally...
More than that, he seemed like a Buddhist monk because he was also, him and...
he was doing the meditation.
He was just meditating under a waterfall.
Absolutely.
And they always look for a nice place to find Zen.
And then you see, I think you see John Winklejohn telling him, find your waterfall, Jon Jones, find your waterfall. It's like, it was a weird thing to say to someone in a fight.
Greg Jackson's just like, we always find nice, quaint, tranquil places to... And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
But,
and then you hear, like, side note, but you hear Greg Jackson say shit like, which he did say, I don't care what he says. Remember when he fought Lyoto, he's just like, oh, go check on Lyoto, go make some fans. Did you know about that?
No.
So after he fought Lyoto and he got him in a guillotine.
That was,
and just dropped him like a sack of potatoes. That was
one of the worst finishes I've ever seen.
Dropped him like a sack of potatoes and just walks away.
I mean, you would have thought the guy was dead. Like, it literally, he felt like he was
I mean, Machida was one of my favorite fighters at the time.
Absolutely.
So talk about going off on a tangent, guys. Sorry, by the way. But no, he was one of my favorite fighters, and for him to do that, I felt a little bit of disrespect. Listen, he didn't have to cradle his head and bring him down softly, but I would have liked to see a little bit of like slowly put him down. There was no bad blood, and Machida's like a legit martial artist that everyone respects, you know. So that's what bothered me. But when he dropped him, he went back to his corner, and Greg Jackson, there's audio proof of it. And he came up with some bullshit excuse afterwards. But he said, he literally goes to John and says, John, go check on Lyoto. Make some fans. Go make some fans.
And what do you mean by that?
What I am taking from it and what I think he was insinuating is make it look like you're the good
nice guy. Okay, and that's always been John's thing, is that he wants to
He's always like trying to look like the nice guy.
And he looks
but he's
terrible.
not.
I mean, this is a guy who, again, I gave you the background of like...
I'm not saying he's a horrible person. Yeah,
we don't know. We don't know.
I'm sure he's really nice to the people he loves and that he cares about, and maybe
I don't know. I'm not going to speculate that. I mean,
he's just a dick to everybody else.
I honestly, I think he's very fake. I think we saw in the first DC fight.
He's hugely fake.
You watch those interviews where they're on, I think, ESPN or Fox. And John's just kind of talking this monotone, like, it shouldn't have happened. And then off that, they played the off-air footage in the trailer where John's like, you still there, pussy? Yeah. And it's just like, come on, man. Like, why didn't you just stay like that? You know, DC didn't change his whole demeanor. He was very much what he was, you know
why? Because it seems like John's... Fuck, we're just talking about John.
But anyway.
I'm just saying, but long story short, it seems like John is just... He's unsure of himself as a human being. He doesn't know who he is. He hasn't found himself.
And he
just seems like he doesn't know what he wants to be.
Yeah, but just to finish off on this point, I wanted to state that John was this hero when I started watching. Then he got into a DUI. Then he got into a car accident where he hit a pregnant woman.
Before that, he tested positive for coke.
Oh yeah, there was this drug stuff. But I mean, those are out of competition things. I don't necessarily think just because you do cocaine you might be a bad person.
No, I don't. I don't think so. I don't think so either. I wasn't big on that either.
It's not a performance enhancer.
No, and on top of it too, like in all fairness, they tested him out of competition randomly when they really weren't. It turns out, as far as I remember, they didn't have the jurisdiction or they weren't in the right to have tested him at that time. And even if they were, I remember they were strictly prohibited from actually releasing that kind of information.
That's a whole different thing where we got to talk about USADA and what they did.
Yeah, but everything else, you're right.
So this guy goes from being a hero to a villain, and I mean, like, literally, when you think he can't mess up anymore, like, he got stripped of his title, all right, comes back, we're ready for this supposed new Jon Jones who's supposed to beat Daniel Cormier, and I still had Daniel winning that fight, but I'm biased. And I really do think DC has improved, from where he was the first time they fought. But
or we can quote Batman and just say he's been around long enough to become the villain.
There you go. So, you were waiting 3 days before the fight, PEDs, and I don't see if this is a 2-year suspension. I don't know what happens to Jon after this. So
yeah, if it's a 2-year suspension, what was he suspended for, or like not necessarily suspended, but after the DUI and all that stuff and the accident with the woman, what was that, like a year?
It was about a year and a few months. Yeah, year and 3 months. But then
if he gets full on suspension from USADA right now, which it'll probably be 2 years.
Yeah.
That's like a 3.5 years.
Well, he did fight
in your prime,
but he did fight OSP.
OSP,
there,
but
right? So
but
that was a terrible fight.
But just I'm not saying like 3 years off straight, but I'm saying that's still 3.5 years.
It's
taken from you.
It's essentially your Dominic Cruz,
your athletic prime.
Because Dominic Cruz had 1 fight in 3 years, but that was different because he was injured.
It's not up to him.
Yeah, he was injured.
Whereas these are decisions that are completely made by Jon.
Yeah,
and that are like these are mistakes that he's making that are preventing him from being able to do what he's fucking put on the earth to do. Because I can guarantee you, Jon does not have the gift of gab.
No,
Jon is not going to be acting in fucking movies anytime soon. Okay, he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have a really good run on Dancing with Stars. Okay, but he's not like he couldn't make it in football.
Yeah.
He did okay in wrestling in high school. He did very well in wrestling. But fighting is his sport. That's what he does. That's what he's going to do. And it's a shame to see like one of what could potentially be the best fighter of all time have 3.5 years taken away potentially from the prime, the peak of his career.
Yeah.
So if he does get suspended for another 2 years, I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. I have no idea. I don't know if he's going to come back the same. I don't know if he's going to want to come back the same. He might be really distraught and depressed. He might never get the mental fortitude back to where he was. He might start doubting himself. I don't know what's going to happen. Or all that's bullshit and he comes back and he just wrecks everybody and takes off picks up where he left off.
And here's the thing. What does this do to DC's career? I mean, there's this question now, always lingering. Can DC... Yeah. Here's my opinion. DC is the champion. He is the unquestioned light heavyweight champion of the world, whether people like it or not. He never got disqualified for competition. I mean, he's only lost to one guy. You look at the names he's beaten. He's beaten Anderson Silva, Frank Mir, Roy Nelson, Anthony Johnson,
Bigfoot
Alexander
Silva.
Gus, Bigfoot Silva. And that Grand Prix heavyweight tournament has names like Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum. I'm probably forgetting a few other names in there.
What really pisses me off is that DC forever, just from what's already taken place, even if he accomplishes a little bit more, is always going to be overshadowed by the controversy of Jon Jones. I really think so.
Maybe.
I think it's always going to leave a question mark. I hope not too. And you can't. Like the real fans like us. They know. We know that like you can't doubt what DC's done. But there's always going to be this like ugly little fucking point in time.
Let me say something about DC really quickly. Name me a person who starts MMA at the age of 30. At the age of 30. And by the age of 37 is number 2 pound for pound maybe in the
close
world.
To it, yeah.
I think he's
a world champion.
I think he's definitely up there. But just to finish on this note with Jon Jones, here's what I wish. I hope it's not a 2-year suspension. I think it's really bad for the sport if it is.
Yeah.
He is a great fighter in the ring. Outside the ring, he is a horrible human being in my eyes, and I really hope he figures out his life. I mean, we're the same age, and he's definitely accomplished a lot of things, and I really admire him for his accomplishments.
Yeah, it's huge.
But what he's done outside of it, I mean, maybe it's the media spinning it out of proportion, but you hit a pregnant woman and run away. There's no way to spin that. You got off scot-free. No jail time, no nothing.
I agree. I also think too, though, when you make these kinds of mistakes, you're privy to having people be harsher on you in the future.
Yeah.
So
he's not a kid.
Well, it's like crying wolf basically. Yeah. Like these things have happened. He's not a kid, but I'm saying these things have happened to him. Now the next time something does happen, like people are automatically going to think like it could be not so like something that's not quite as big.
Yeah.
People will automatically think of his past. Like what I'm saying is people are more sensitive to the subject of him fucking up now, like or him making mistakes. So that's the issue with him now. Like, he's got to be on his absolute best behavior, better behavior than even a regular person like DC who doesn't do anything wrong.
So,
you know what I mean?
So on that note, let's go from one PED user who's been found guilty of it to another one in
just black eyes.
Brock Lesnar.
Black eyes on the sport everywhere.
Brock Lesnar, who, if you didn't see it coming, I don't know what to say. I mean, I thought it was surprising when the first few tests came back and he passed them. Yeah, I thought for sure.
For that reason alone, I'm going to argue the other side that I actually was surprised.
You were surprised.
I was surprised because we had immediately found out that the first 5 tests, he had gone through 5 tests within a few weeks period.
Yeah.
And they had all come back clean. Yeah. And I was sitting there thinking, you know what? Brock's a smart guy. He wouldn't fuck this up. He wouldn't ruin this opportunity for himself. Yeah. And he, all 5 were clean. I have no reason to think that, 5 tests come back clean.
Well, he failed the post-fight test too. So there's 2 tests now.
So there was 2 more tests after, I think there was 7 or 8 total. Okay. And the first 5 were clean, and then I think the 6th before the fight, which was a June 16th.
Yeah.
And then the post-fight drug test were both positive.
Estrogen blockers.
Yeah,
both the same PED, by the way, that Jon Jones used.
Which typically, in most occasions, is used for the latter half cycle of getting off of a steroid cycle.
Okay.
Normally, it's used for when you do steroids, and then you get on the estrogen blockers at the tail end of your cycle.
Yeah.
But in some cases, some guys do use it to inhibit. To stop the estrogen so that they can raise testosterone levels slightly, and it works somewhat like a TRT. Okay. So there's that as well. Either or are bad. The second half is not as bad. Mm-hmm. The first half is way worse because then that means you fully used steroids. But it's
and we don't know the use steroids. I don't know what else you'd use an estrogen blocker for. I'm not familiar with this stuff. This is not my realm of expertise in any manner. Yeah, it's just PEDs are performance enhancing drugs. They shouldn't be doing it. They broke the rules, and by that they are cheating.
I wrote a big article about performance enhancing drugs, like a 3, 4, 5 page article on Low Kick MMA a couple of years ago, and I went through a lot of what it can do to help, a lot of the facade and myth and the make believe stories about it, things that are not necessarily true. Some there's a lot of arguments about. Is it really helping people win, or is it really making the sport more dangerous? Like, they had this debate. Yeah. That's a whole debate for another time. But long story short, these are things that are wrong. They shouldn't be doing them. They're outlawed. They're now against company policy, and USADA is there to break them, and that's what they're doing. They're busting it.
I mean, this is the main and co-main event. Essentially, main event Jon Jones was pulled from. Co-main Brock Lesnar wins the fight, which I thought he looked great. I thought, wow, you've been out for 5 years. Yeah. I mean, people were saying, Brock's gonna get knocked out. Yeah. I
knew he was gonna do
when you look at it, Brock came in at weight at 265.5.
Yeah, he had to cut. He always
had to cut. But when you look at Mark Hunt and Brock Lesnar, he makes Mark Hunt look small, like really small.
Mark. That's another thing. Mark Hunt is not big. Like, there's this weird thing that Mark Hunt's this big guy, but he's really just he's 5'10", 5'11" max. And he's just thick. He's a thick guy. He's a thick dude. Yeah. But he's not by no means like a 6'4" NFL lineman monster. No. He's not one of those guys. He's not a LeBron James, huge, tall, lanky. By any means. And Brock he's the same height as Fedor.
Yeah. And Brock did a great job, I think, of controlling the distance, making sure he didn't get into Mark's range, and then. His takedowns were great. He did what he did back in the day when he became champion. Yeah.
And I called it. I knew.
I think we both said. I think Brock was going to win that fight.
I thought Brock was going to win that fight too, and everyone's just like, "Nah, he's going to get knocked out."
He's you can't throw away a former champion. You can't. And
that wasn't a fake belt. I mean, he fought real guys.
Frank Mir,
and that comeback win against Shane Carwin.
The interim title Shane Carwin had, and that was one of the greatest fights I think I've ever seen. Was awesome. Because Brock definitely got his ass kicked in the first round.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as
but we're talking about like the stain on the sport and PDs. I mean, it's getting from bad to worse. I mean, I'm glad USADA's kind of cleaning it up, but just to kind of get slightly off topic. I mean, Chad Mendes, another top contender in that featherweight division. These guys are dropping like flies. Leon Machida, Yoel Romero. I mean. The Romero thing might have been a little...
Machida, too. Machida was actually, if you look into the story, the Machida thing is like a kind of an over-exaggerated story.
Yeah.
He didn't actually take performance enhancing
He actually took it to USADA.
He brought his tainted supplement to USADA and said, hey, I'm taking this. I just want to make sure it's good. But he already started taking it.
And then they told him it wasn't good.
But the thing is, the tainted supplement argument, I don't want to see it come up anymore because now it's one of those things where anybody can use it as an excuse. Now, this is the thing.
And they have. Everybody's used it as an excuse. John's using it right now as an excuse.
Now, this is the thing. What happens if they took a steroid and they say tainted supplement and then they go out of their way to search very hard for a supplement that has... that taint in it. And it can happen. That can happen. Steroid. Yeah. And they can get a lesser...
Which is why I don't have a problem... Which is why I don't have a problem... Like, the Yoel Romero incident, he got suspended 6 months. Some people are saying he should be suspended. Malky... what's his name? I always forget his name. Malky...
Not Cabrera.
No. The guy who reps, like, Jones and Yoel...
Oh, Kawa.
Yeah, Malky Kawa. He came out and said, I don't think Yoel should be suspended at all.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you are still responsible for what you put inside your body, and in that case, I think you said it was fair to give him a 6-month suspension. I mean, it's not the worst case scenario. Some people don't even fight more than once in a year, so it's not the worst suspension.
Yeah.
And it did kind of affect his title shot, which I think Chris Weidman ended up getting the rematch, but then Michael Bisping came and took the title.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but listen, like.
They're cleaning up the sport.
Guys who, like, Lorenzo Fertitta said it himself. He said it, with USADA coming in, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So, the thing with it is, the fighters who don't cheat, like the Michael Bispings, the Tim Kennedys, and listen, I can't say for sure.
Yeah. Although Rampage has kind of come out and accused Bisping of...
Really?
So, he said he kind of alluded to Bisping
I didn't
doing stuff. Yeah, there's stuff that Rampage has said, but
interesting. Well, I'll tell you what. Like, listen, I like to think that I'm somewhat of a good judge of character. Maybe that's me being naive, but like I typically feel like the guys who I feel are being honest and fighting honestly, naturally. Who get the shit end of the stick, like Michael Bisping. Yeah. I like seeing the guys who are cheating get booted, and the guys who deserve their spot get their spot. Like that's just karma. Okay. What happened to Bisping? I'm actually really happy for Michael Bisping. I'm a great fan.
It's a great career.
I like him. Yeah. And he's hated by many people, but I get his shtick. I get his humor. Yeah. It's very British humor. It's very snarky.
We will touch on the Dan Henderson fight in another episode.
Yeah.
But to touch back on the point of, PDs and what they're doing, I mean, what does it say about Mark Hunt now, who has literally fought 3 fighters in a row?
Yeah.
Who have either tested before or literally after the fight had tested positive. So Antonio Silva, they fought once before in a draw. Antonio came out testing positive. They made it a no contest. Mark argued that should be a win for him if it was a draw, which I agree with. I think it should have been a win for Mark if one person was definitely caught cheating, but I think they still counted as a no contest.
Yeah.
Then he fights Frank Mir, knocks out Frank Mir. Frank Mir tests positive for another PD. I don't know what his PD was, but it looks like he's getting the 2-year ban, which, I mean, that might be his career.
Listen, and then Frank Mir can do other things though.
Sure,
right?
Sure, but they kicked him off. They kicked him off even commentary things like on Fox.
Yeah, that's because he said that he wanted to kill Brock Lesnar, or he hoped he died or something like that.
And then he fights Brock Lesnar. And now Mark Hunt has come out and argued we need a fighters union. Yeah. He's claimed that Dana, Lorenzo, and all of them have made billions off of the blood of fighters, the broken bones.
Line their pockets with the blood.
I think that was the quote. Yeah. And then he's reached out now on social media to fighters saying, let's get this thing started. Mm-hmm. Do you think a fighters union will happen if Mark Hunt leads? I mean, he's on the kind of tail end of his career here, and I mean, this has been talked about before. I mean, Jose Aldo has said let's do Fighter Union, and that's never happened.
TJ Dillashaw's been vocal about Fighter Pay. He has.
Did you see what happened at UFC 200 for his pay?
What, I don't recall.
Sage Northcutt made more than TJ Dillashaw.
Shut up.
Yeah, Sage Northcutt I think made 100.
That's
total win in show,
absurd.
and then or made 100 to show, 100 to win, and TJ made 50 to show,
That's
50 to win. I think that's what it was. I might not be right. Don't quote me on that.
That's absurd.
But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a bantamweight champion versus a prospect who's never fought anybody in the top 10 of the lightweight or welterweight division. I think he's fought in both weight classes. I mean, he got beat by Bryan Barberena his last fight. He didn't look particularly. You might even argue he might have lost that last fight in 200.
Mind you, the Bryan Barberena fight, he was sick. Like that's what he said. He said he was.
You fight, right? You fight.
Dude, when you're sick and you got like a viral thing going on, like that takes out a lot of. So that's the only thing I would argue. But yeah, his last fight.
But even the fight before that, he didn't look super impressive. I forgot who he fought, but
I'm gonna be honest with you. From watching mixed martial arts for so long, it just. I listen. I have to give him the benefit of the doubt because
he's only like 20.
He is really young.
Yeah, he's super young.
But I mean. I get the gist that he's kind of being shielded by his father, and that I don't see him going to legitimate gyms.
Well, he's training at TriStar.
Not for a full serious camp. He's gone for like a consultation almost to TriStar. He's kind of had some input from Faraz and stuff like that. So, but he didn't go to TriStar, stay in Montreal, and do a full camp with Faraz. Yeah. And if he did. That's when I think you would see his full potential because when I see him fight right now, I see a lot of really stupid mistakes. I see a lot of immaturity, obviously, of just him getting overexcited and that comes with getting older.
And fighting's an emotional sport.
It's very emotional, and he has an advantage of having tons of competition experience, having done karate competition since he was a kid and everything, but. I think he's nowhere near his full potential, and I think he'll only get there if he really partners himself up with someone legitimate like a Greg Jackson or a Faraz or one of those guys.
Just because we got off topic here, let's get back to the union, the fighter union. Here's what I think. I don't think a fighter union is going to happen anytime soon. If it does happen, there is a question whether it affects the UFC sale that has just been happening. UFC just sold for $4 billion to. I always forget the first three initials. W something something.
WMG.
WMG IMG.
IME.
IME. Okay, I'm screwing up the name. Anyway, it's a big, conglomerate of agencies that have bought the.
Yeah, and they
intro.
Our battery died.
Our battery just died. So we are shooting this in the comfort of Brian's own home, and I did not charge my batteries last night, so that is my fault. Anyway, we were on the topic of the fighter union and the sale. So to me, I just finished off saying I don't think the union's going to happen. If it does happen, how do you think it affects the sale?
You don't think the union's going to happen ever?
I don't know. I just don't think it's happening in the immediate future. I think.
How long?
I think you need someone like I think even Brian Schaub had mentioned this on his podcast. You need someone like a Connor or someone like that, like a Ronda, to lead it and just basically say we will not fight.
Someone with chips in their corner.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they can let Mark Hunt go. Yeah. Mark Hunt's 42, 43 years old.
Yeah,
it means nothing.
They
tried to pay him.
He's actually not supposed to be there.
Yeah, they tried to get rid of him years ago.
Yeah.
So
they paid him not to fight. So
listen, my heart feels for Mark. I love Mark. I love watching that guy fight. I mean, ever since I started following the UFC, that man does not deserve to keep fighting people who are cheating over and over again. I mean, the UFC knew what it was doing or
just being mistreated in general.
I mean, here's the thing, because Brock got an exemption. Just to give a little background to that, people thought, they're cheating for Brock. The way the exemption worked is that Brock was under an old contract.
Yeah.
And
before the USADA era.
Before the USADA era. And the way it works now is that the exemptions are made all the time, but they're typically made for new fighters.
Yeah.
When the UFC signs somebody, they don't test. USADA doesn't test them for 4 months. They get what is called a UFC exemption.
Yeah.
And they get to fight within the month, but they get tested throughout that month. Mm-hmm. So anytime you see a new fighter that's coming in on 2 weeks notice and you just call this guy up and he has to get tested, that's always used. So in this case it was used for Brock Lesnar and that's what the exemption was. Now is it a loophole? Yes, it's a loophole. But again, Mark Hunt deserves better. Does there need to be a fighter union? Hell yeah, there does. I mean, when we're talking
at some point,
when we're talking about the UFC selling for $4 billion, just to get an idea, when there's fighters that have been with the UFC a long time, and literally, you know, when they leave the UFC, they go into poverty. Now that could be their own mismanagement of money, but like take Chris Lieben for someone. I mean, he's if you've been following where Chris Lieben is, he's not in a great place financially. From what I saw last time I looked at his, you know, some updates on that coming up. Yeah, well, I didn't see his updates on his life and stuff. You know, it's pretty sad because Lieben was a staple in the UFC for, I mean, maybe a decade.
Big
I think.
Name,
but you know, when you look at we don't know what the fighters are being paid. They're playing some disclosure with. If you're a superstar, you're probably getting paid a lot. But are you still even making the money you deserve? Like, let's say, they're talking about Jon Jones might be missing out on $30 million over 3 years. So he's making, you know, and that's people being generous.
Maybe more.
People are saying, so let's give
maybe more when you include endorsements.
Let's say he's making $15 million just from UFC fights and whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Let's be generous and say that's what he makes, including the bonuses.
Yeah.
The UFC just sold for $4 billion.
Yeah.
Okay? And the way I've been told that the fighter pay works is that 10% goes to the fighters. 10 to 15% goes to the fighters. And that other 85 to 90% goes to the Fertitta brothers and Dana White and their other partner that's with them in that ownership realm. But that is absurd. That's absurd. You take any other major sport, we're talking about 55-45. You go to NBA, NHL, soccer, you do any of these sports, that's how it works. I mean, fighting is a different business. I am willing to admit that. I admit a fighter's only as good as their last fight, which is the reality, the sad truth. But yeah, I just don't see... I don't see how a fighter... They gotta get a lawyer that gets in on this. Like, I'm surprised no lawyer has, considering the money that's on the table. But they need... Listen, we're talking about lawyers too. The UFC has the best lawyers in the game. They've been able to get the players.
The person with the most money has the best lawyers. Yeah, right.
So but you know,
they have $4 billion worth of lawyers.
I'm not sure what the fighters get off video game sales, off of franchising over their own jerseys.
From what I understand, and from the research I've done, they don't. Most of them don't get anything from the video games.
That is absurd. That is fucking absurd.
The Reebok deal...
That's your right. Your name is in that game.
I know. Your likeness. And you signed it away. Yeah. So from what I understand, most of them don't make anything off the video game. And the Reebok deal, when it came into effect, they were supposed to get a certain amount of Reebok money from just Reebok in general, Reebok endorsements, and the percentage off, like a cut off of the merch with their name on it.
Yeah.
You know, like their Reebok shirts, like their personalized shirts and stuff like that. And I listen.
Worst uniforms ever.
Horrible.
The Reebok. We will save the Reebok for another day.
I could do a whole episode on the stupidity of
the
Reebok line.
Let's finish up on this fighter union.
I like Reebok. But the UFC shit is horrible.
It should be a done deal. But we're going to touch on that in another episode. But I want to talk about just this. You finish up your point with the fighter union and Mark Hunt debacle and Sale and everything.
So the fighters union, as far as that goes, like if it happens, it's to like I almost feel like. And listen, I don't mean to make, and this isn't all fighters. I'm not lumping everybody in together, but. Many of these fighters, they're not Harvard graduates. Okay, they're like,
of course.
Their goal, their skills are to fight. And they're physically very intelligent. They've got very smart fight intelligence, but they're not necessarily made for like business or for finances or things like that. No. So I don't think that a fighters union is going to be spawned from. Fighters. I think it's going to be spawned from fight management and fight lawyers.
And that's a very I think I can see what that.
I think it's going to take. But the thing is, as a fighter, like even like you don't have to be the smartest human being to get an idea going, just because you don't understand the intricacies of the idea. So a fighter could want the union to happen for the sake of all fighters being treated fairly, and tell his much more qualified manager and or lawyer, I want to get this put into effect. Let's do what we need to do. Rally the people that we need to get around this. And realistically, the only way I think a fighters union is going to happen is if multiple managers, multiple lawyers all come together and make a team. Like start some sort of team, like a legal entity of some kind that has a lot of financial backing behind it, fighters backing behind it, intelligence behind it, experience behind it, that makes a push against the company where you can literally get enough fighters and enough managers and enough personnel to go on strike or do something crazy, and then you also have the experience to back it up. For when you go on strike, you also have demands that you make and demands that need to be met before you come back into the fold. So we could see. I'm not gonna lie. Before we see a fighters union, I think we'll see a UFC lockout.
Yes, that's
I think,
exactly
I think
what
we'll see like
you have to see that
1 year, which would suck for the fighters.
No, but it's
for everybody.
I don't think it'll be 1 year. I don't think it'll be 1 year. I think it'll happen a lot faster.
Who knows what it'll be?
Yeah.
But I think you'll see like.
A
I think one person will
take.
join because there's a handful of fighters who I know have the balls and have the bravery to say fuck it, I'm not fighting.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting until we get this done or we get this deal made.
Yeah.
And I think it will take that one fighter that you're talking about. Like it will take a guy like McGregor or like to really sway and turn the tables, if you will. So I think that's how it's going to happen. I think it would have to be a lockout, and I think a lockout would have to happen, and the company would have to be losing money. And it would have to be horrible for both parties to the point where one of them, it's like a game of chicken, and one of them gives up and gives in and says, okay, fine, what do you want? You know what I mean? Because this company, WME-IMG, they're not buying WMG-IMG.
Yeah, I'm always going to forget it. Yeah. They're very powerful. Let's just go with that.
They're large. They have money.
They're a big deal.
They didn't buy the UFC to just like maintain the status quo. They bought the UFC because they think they can do a better job. Well, in my opinion,
I think the profit margin was also had to be a big part of the sell. The fighters make 10 to 15.
100%.
So they're looking at it like, okay, if you make a revenue of 600 million, which they did last year, that's 90 to 85% going to the owners and management. Yeah, that's amazing. If I'm buying it, I want to buy that. Yeah. But now, if the fighters are coming in and they're saying this, I don't know what's going to happen. There's rumors that it's kind of affecting the sale. Dana's come out and said it's not affecting the sale, but Dana says a lot of stuff, and he said they weren't even selling it. They sold it. So
at this point, I don't take anything that Dana says. You can't.
You can't. So. Trump 2016. But
I think I don't think they bought it to just reap the revenue. I think they bought it because they think they can do a better job. Okay. And they think they've got ideas for expansion. So I don't know what's going to happen. None of us have any clue.
I think it'll be a slow transition.
It will be a slow transition, but this, realistically, the sport could not look very different in 10 years, or it could almost not exist, or just be completely 10 times bigger. We don't know what's going to happen. It's exciting in a way, because we're in the infancy of a sport, which you never really get to see at this level in in the past 40, 50 years even. You know what I mean? But there has to be a union. I think it will happen at one point. The only issue, again, and a lot of people don't mention this, but fighters are not a team.
And that is the problem.
And that changes things slightly.
Because even in the NBA, right?
They're contractors.
No, but even in the NBA, right? You could have Steph Curry and LeBron go at it in the finals. Yeah. But behind closed doors, they can hang out. Yeah. They can chill. Yeah. You're not going to see Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor be like that. They don't like each other. You know? You never see Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier be buddies. Yeah. Could they get together on an issue like this? I think when money talks, yeah. But like you said, I think a lockout is definitely something that has to happen for a union to even materialize or for it to even be taken seriously. Yeah. But with that being said, let's move on to last night's fights. I don't know if did you catch the card?
I was not around to catch the card, but I did go back and watch as much of the Melendez Barboza fight as I could. Yeah. And the main event.
Okay, so here's the thing. I watched the last two fights. I wanted to catch the Francis Ngannou fight. Okay, yeah. Because he's a heavyweight prospect. If you haven't seen him, he's like Brock Lesnar. He's incredibly jacked for a heavyweight. It makes no sense for him to look that way, but he looks that way. and he is knocking people out, like viciously knocking them out.
That's crazy.
I missed that fight. I read some articles, and I'm looking to see the highlights when I get a chance.
After you said that, I gotta go watch it.
Yeah, dude, this is the heavyweight prospect of the future. Daniel Cormier, during a weigh-in, I don't think it was this fight, but the last fight he fought, said this guy is scary. Like, that's what, and Cormier's not afraid of a lot of people, but he looked at this guy and he said, this guy, I don't want to be in a ring with this guy, you know? And so I didn't get to see that fight, but I did watch the last 2 fights. And here's the thing. Edson Barboza, man. My goodness. That guy can kick. And if you watch the fight, you will watch Melendez's leg just stop working. At certain points, just stop working and fall.
I think any other human being would have just collapsed.
And that's a lot of credit to Gilbert's toughness. I did not particularly think Gilbert was great.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're looking at his UFC record now, I think he's only won 1 fight.
He's 1-4 in his last 5.
That is pretty damning, you know. I mean, and he just came
Mind
off
you,
of,
he's just fighting killers.
You know, but he's also coming off a PED thing, and
I also to argue in his favor, I also think that he beat
Eddie
and Benson Henderson. I think he beat Bendo when he fought for the title. I scored it for.
Okay, so I actually scored it for Benson, but I said it was one of those fights it's a split.
It was close,
and it was a split.
Yeah.
It was a split. I gave it to Benson. I did go to Benson. Benson is the king of splits, or was for a while.
Yeah.
He won that split against Frankie. Then he won a split against Melendez.
Yeah, he's the king.
Then he did dominate Nate, and then I think he lost the title to Pettis.
Yeah.
But then he won a split decision against Josh Thompson. So they, you know what I mean. So there was.
If it's a split, it's Bendo.
So it's a split. Well, he did lose a split decision to a fight which I think he did win, which is Donald Cerrone.
The irony.
Anyway, Gilbert Melendez. I don't know where he ranks now in the top 5. I don't think he's in the top 5 anymore. Anthony Pettis just got kicked out of the lightweight division, and the guys that kicked him out were Rafael Dos Anjos, Eddie Alvarez, and Edson Barboza, who kicked Pettis brutally. I mean, I think Pettis had one of those big bruise marks that you see in his legs, and it's crazy because Tony Ferguson fought Barboza not too long ago.
Yeah.
And that was a great fight, and came out with the win. You know, so Ferguson is now looking like a top contender. Well, he was always looking like a top contender, but I don't.
You can't deny him now.
Well, here's the thing: Khabib to me is the lightweight champion. He hasn't won it, but he's the lightweight champion to me.
But he's been out.
He's but
doing nothing.
He
might as well not
he's
exist
Dominic
for
Cruz.
that time.
No, but he's Dominic Cruz then. Dominic Cruz was out, came back with the belt.
Quite, but I get what you're saying.
He didn't have the belt, but here's the thing: Khabib's never lost a fight. And that there's something to be said about that. And we're talking about when, you looked at the Eddie Alvarez fight versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Eddie was losing until he landed that bomb. And if you look at the Khabib fight, Khabib dominated all the way through. And I've never seen Rafael just ragdolled like that.
Yeah.
There was, Khabib's not known for knockout power or anything, but he can just wrestle you to the ground and just throw you around and just lay the punches down and wear you out. And I think he is the next lightweight champ. I see Eddie trying to get a Conor fight or a Nate fight, which is a money fight, which he's trying to do. Because Rafael now knows, right? Rafael knows he lost millions of dollars because he didn't make that fight with Conor in March.
Yeah.
And it's likely he's never gonna get that back unless he gets the title back. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic. So Edson Barboza, I think, is the real deal. I don't know who you match him up with next. I guess you give him Rafael Dos Anjos and see what happens there, because I think it's either Tony or Khabib who get the title shot. Yeah, you can't have Edson fight Tony again because they just fought. So
yeah. So if you were saying was it either Tony or Khabib gets the
and I think it's Khabib.
Shot?
I think Khabib gets the next title shot.
Yeah, maybe the problem is I think Tony's been way more consistent. Tony Ferguson, and he has more fights, more finishes, more and more.
Well, he's been healthy. He's been healthy.
So it's one of those things where I almost feel like for the sake of because Khabib just came back and just fought
nobody
and won one fight.
Well, the fight before he destroyed the lightweight.
Yeah, but how long ago was that before?
It's about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
So come on, you got. I feel like you can't just give him a title shot after that. In my opinion, Ferguson is way more deserving of the title shot.
Yes, because
in comparison,
he's the lightweights division Max Holloway. Like he's just
one tearing up people. You know what I mean? So I think Ferguson should get it. Barboza looked really good. His leg kicks are scary, definitely. Melendez, I think, is looking like he's on the downswing of his career.
He's 34. 34.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily hugely old, but for the amount of fights he's had, he has a lot of miles on the tires. Like he's been in wars. Like,
hey, do you remember Jordan Mean?
Yeah.
Jordan Mean, I think, is a year or two younger than me. I think he's 27, 26.
Yeah.
That guy had fought over 40-something MMA fights at the age of 26 and has retired. So it's not about how old you are. It's about the years. The amount of fights you have. Like Daniel Cormier to me is still kind of young.
Yeah.
In the fight game because he's had
in the fight game.
No, not in age, but
as an athlete, he's old.
Yeah. As an athlete, he's old, but he hasn't been doing MMA grinding, which is
but
wrestling is its own. Yeah,
that might be even harder.
Harder. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So
yeah,
he's just the king of the grind.
He's
the king of the grind. Anyway, so the next fight on that card. I mean, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think I'm good with that. I don't know what they do with Melendez next. That's a lot of fights he's been losing. So, I
think you got to give him a prospect.
I think he's two more losses away from getting bounced. You know
how about Michael Chiesa? I wouldn't mind watching that fight.
That'd be good.
Chiesa,
that would be interesting.
I
like Chiesa.
I like Chiesa too, and I think that would be a good fight for him. Just because he's on the bottom end of the top 10, maybe he's top 10, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or even a Michael Johnson fight would be kind of cool.
I
like one of those two for Melendez.
And then Barboza, I say they...
Barboza's got to fight Dos Anjos. That's pretty much it. He's knocked everybody else out. So
that would be a great fight.
With the exception of Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
But let's go to the main event. I mean, Valentina Shevchenko. Yeah. My goodness.
Yeah.
You know, I watched the Amanda Nunes fight versus Shevchenko. I thought Shevchenko completely dominated that third round.
Yeah.
And that's why I had a lot of doubt. That's why I didn't even watch the main event with Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes, just because it looked like Nunes does wear out as the fight goes on, and I just thought
she's
Miesha
hot at the beginning.
Yeah, and I thought Miesha looked bad though. There was trouble.
Miesha did not look herself.
She didn't come in on weight. She did come on weight, but
even
just
walking to the octagon, something felt off. Yeah. I don't know what it was.
She might have. Something didn't go right with her weight cut. It looked like that, and she just got taken to school. I mean, I watched the fight afterwards, but I walked out during that. Like once the Brock Lesnar Mark Hunt was done, I walked out. And some girls yelling at me like, "You're not gonna watch the Miesha fight," and it's not. And I was like, "This is not about me not liking women fights. I love women's MMA.
Yeah.
I didn't respect that as a main event. I thought Holly was deserving of a rematch. I thought Nunes didn't look great against Valentina Shevchenko. She did win the first 2 rounds. I did see that. Had it to go to a fourth and a fifth.
Yeah,
I think Shevchenko does win that. That's why I didn't care. I thought this was gonna be an easy sweep. And I was wrong. Nunes put on an incredible performance, and she deserves a lot of credit. And I will be watching her next fight, regardless of what happens. I think she was a star.
And even if when we say Tate didn't look like she was her normal self, even if she didn't come in, if she came in flustered, whatever her issues were, she has enough experience. Yeah. That she could have. I know she has the mental fortitude to get through that stuff. So the fact that she lost, I give it to Nunes. And the one thing I want to say about Shevchenko winning and Nunes winning is that what a lot of the other reporters are saying, journalists, reporters, and personalities in MMA, journalism and media that are well respected, a lot of them are saying, well, what if Shevchenko wins? And now Shevchenko has won, and they're saying, what do you do? Is it Shevchenko versus Nunes?
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, the thing is this: they're saying it like it's like it means nothing, and that hurts, and it doesn't make any sense to me, because the only way you can create more stars is by giving other people an opportunity. Yeah. So, I know Nunes and Shevchenko don't have the name that Tate, Rousey, and all of them have.
But you have to give them time. But they just came up.
They never will if you don't give them the chance to.
Yeah.
And the only way that they can become that is if they beat those people.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, that people are looking at is in no way does the UFC lose in this situation. Because look at it this way. Tate, Rousey, all American chicks.
Yeah.
Like all American.
Yeah, and now you have
female
international
fighters,
failure. Yeah.
amazing, fantastic. But now you've got the UFC's first openly gay champion, which is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And then you have a Russian prospect when you don't have many Russian prospects at all, men or women in the UFC, kind of surfacing. You've got like maybe Khabib, and then you've got my boy Misha.
Yeah.
And you don't really have any real Russian prospects, and you have one who's a female. You can use both of these angles. You can market this in so many different ways.
You have more international favor.
To me,
absolutely.
this is nothing but good for the sport.
Yeah.
And it's really healthy. It creates more rivalries,
and
more storylines,
yeah.
and it gives you more options for the future of the the female division. Because I think this division now has been turned on its head.
It's chaos now.
In the best of ways.
It's absolutely chaos.
I think it's anyone's game, and at this point, this is a whole other point that we'll get into. But I think Rousey could just walk in and grab her title right now.
I
could just walk in and come back and grab it.
No, but here's the reality.
If she could be the way that she was.
Ronda to me, okay. You want to talk about somebody being
tangent?
No, but it's a tangent. But just a point I want to touch on. Ronda lost to Holly Holm in devastating fashion. Like just.
Yeah.
You never want to lose a fight like that.
No, it was bad. It was embarrassing.
Do you remember when she throws that punch and just wobbles?
Yeah.
Like, she looked silly.
On her knee?
Yeah, she looked silly.
It looked like... She
looked like an amateur.
It was almost as bad as... And I hate saying it because I love the guy who lost. Silva versus Griffin.
Yeah.
It was almost as bad as that.
Yeah, it's exactly as bad. That was pretty bad.
That was fucking Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah.
It was almost as bad as that.
So here's the thing. When she lost, she went through a kind of a breakdown there where she goes on Ellen DeGeneres. She talks about, wanting to kill herself because she lost.
Yeah.
I mean, this is someone I personally don't even want to see fight if that's your mentality.
Yeah.
Like if you actually go through those thoughts just because of one loss, your life didn't end. You're still a superstar. People still love you. You're a blockbuster superstar. You're gonna make movies. People are gonna go see that. There was a lot of great things to look at there, and then to come out on national television and do that, it freaked me out because I don't want fighters with that mentality fighting, ever. And don't get me wrong, I have all the respect for her in terms of her talent. I don't like her personality personally. I just think she's kind of a douche.
Neither do I.
But... Douchette, but, she's like the Floyd Mayweather kind of thing. Like, she's just a douche and people love to watch her. Like, Jon Jones. Why?
She's great. People love greatness.
Yeah, she's great.
That's what it is. People love greatness.
LeBron
LeBron can be a douche.
So do I think Amanda Nunes can't beat her? I think Amanda Nunes can beat her. Do I think Shevchenko can beat her? After what Shevchenko just did last night to Holly Holm.
Monstrous, yeah.
I mean, this is a division now where Ronda's coming back and people have gotten better.
Yeah.
Like Holly, my God, I don't know what to say about Holly Holm anymore. I was rooting for... I love Holly. Holly's my favorite fighter in that division.
Yeah.
You talk about class personified. You talk about a champion who speaks so humbly, like very quiet, and
sweetheart. Yeah.
And just comes out like a monster. Even in that fight, she won the first round. She rocked Shevchenko.
Yeah.
It was looking like Holly was gonna win, and after that first round, Shevchenko was kind of doing some things in there, but it was definitely the first round Holly. After that, it just slowly the counters started hitting for Shevchenko, and Holly had no answer. I always thought, why wasn't she throwing more kicks?
Yeah.
She had the height advantage. She was the one that should have been controlling the distance.
Yeah. Well, Holly did say there was in a post-fight interview. There was a couple quotes from Holly that she was saying she should have believed in herself more.
And there's a confidence thing after a loss, right? Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows what it is? But maybe she felt like she didn't push the action enough, or she didn't set the tone.
Oh, she was pushing, but I don't know how this works. Like, if you know someone's a counter puncher, I would imagine you'd want to take them out of their element as much as possible. Yeah. I was surprised she kept going forward.
Well,
knowing that
Shevchenko's a striker.
Yeah, but she's a counter striker. Yeah. She's not someone to push the action right away. Yeah. Which is why I thought if Holm could have reversed the tide and maybe made Shevchenko a little bit more aggressive, it would play more into what Holly was trying. Because Holly won against Rousey by being a counter striker.
Yeah.
Holly might be just as good as a counter striker as Shevchenko.
Yeah.
But she wasn't counter striking. She was the being aggressor and was getting caught. Kind of like Frankie and Aldo where it's just like, oh my god, Frankie, stop going forward. You're getting tagged right now by the counters. Maybe
that was genius.
And Mark Henry I think came out recently and was like, I messed up for Frankie, and I think he really did. But anyway,
good on him for admitting.
And that's a coach. No coach is perfect.
That's a coach you want in your corner. I'm just saying, as far as
I've heard, Javier. Is it Javier Mendez, the ATT? Yeah, and Javier Mendez. When Kane lost to Verdum, Javier came out and said, I really let Kane down that night. Yeah. So there's coaches who know, and it's the thing, sometimes people think it's always on the fighter. The fighters are just listening to their coaches.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of like Anthony Johnson versus Gustafsson. Anthony Johnson heard Gustafsson's corner say throw some punch or throw some kick. Anthony Johnson heard it and knew right away the counter to throw because he heard Alexander Gustafsson's corner call for a punch. So sometimes coaches kind of mess up their fighters that way.
Which they should have been speaking in Swedish.
Yeah, they should have been speaking Swedish. But if you have so they messed up. So Anthony Johnson caught Gustafsson and Gustafsson lost that fight. But anyway, back to this point of Holly Holm. I mean, where does she go now? Like, where do you think she's fighting? Who she fight next?
I don't know. I don't think Holly Holm is like done. I don't think that. I don't think like she's on the downswing, or I think she's
also up there too in
she
fight
is up
years.
Too.
She's got a whole kickboxing, boxing career.
Oh yeah, boxing. She was like multiple boxing champion.
She's 12 fights in MMA and
I think she still has a lot left in her.
She's definitely the most accomplished.
Yeah.
In that bantamweight division of titles in different sports. And
I think if Holly, it's not that she's not well rounded, but if she like really focuses on a little bit more of a wrestling in her jiu-jitsu and gets confident in those areas, then I feel like if she mixed it up more, she would have more success. Yeah. If she like almost was a GSP style fighter who just kind of like would punch you when you think she's going to take you down and take you down when you think she's going to punch you, and then just schooled them everywhere. But and she can do that because she's with the right camp. Like if there's anywhere she's got to beat to improve, it's at Greg Jackson.
So who do you think she fights next? Her Misha rematch?
That
both coming off losses?
Honestly,
I'd like to see it.
I think that would make sense.
But I don't think they're going to do it. I don't know. I would like to see it, but I don't know what's coming up next.
I think that would make sense. I don't know who else you would give. I don't know. I mean,
this makes it weird for Ronda's comeback. Like, she comes back, she doesn't even fight two of her main rivals. She fights either Amanda Nunes, possibly Shevchenko wins the title, or I'm forgetting her name, who just beat Kent Sagano. Not Adriana Lima.
No. Venezuelan Vixen.
What am I getting? Why am I not getting her name? I know her name. Oh God, you're blanking too?
Yeah.
This is terrible.
We're both blanking.
Anyway, she should be the next one.
The Venezuelan Vixen. That's all I know. That's her nickname.
She's new. No. Okay. Anyway, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
If you pull up on your phone or something.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Let's just get her name because this is terrible.
We'll get it. But
she should be the next one in line for me. That's who I think should be
instead of Shevchenko. You think?
Yes, absolutely, because she's won 4 in a row. She went through the whole Ultimate Fighter. She just beat Kat Zingano, who beat Nunes, who beat Tate. I think she's the easiest option for the title fight. Shevchenko just lost to Nunes in the last fight before Holly, so I don't think you get one fight and all of a sudden you get to fight for the championship.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think she's definitely next in line. And she even said she's not fighting for a title. She's not fighting unless it's for a title shot because she's fought so much already.
Yeah, she did say that.
So let's get her name. Come on,
Juliana Pena.
Ah, there we go.
There you
God,
go.
Sorry.
I don't know how we both brain farted on that.
Sorry. Oh my God, is the recording stopped? What? No. What happened here?
What does it say?
It just said stopped automatically.
Fuck.
All right, we're back in this, and we just say her name just for good. I don't know where we cut up there.
We don't know where it cut off.
But we got Juliana Pena. That's who should be challenging for the title next. I don't know where we got cut off there, so
that could have been so bad.
We have the audio. Right. We'll leave the audio there somewhere. Okay, who knows?
Yeah, we'll leave the audio if the video just cuts.
Yeah, the audio cuts out. Anyway, so
Juliana Pena,
I think she fights for the title.
You know what? I think she's 7-0 now. Like if you include
if you include the Ultimate
Fighter, which were all legit girls.
Yeah,
all legit fighters, legit women.
I think they're still in the bantamweight. Some of them are still in the bantamweight division.
Yeah, so I think that she's. I definitely would say probably. I don't know. Shevchenko for beating Holm is close though. You know what I mean?
Oh, she's definitely second in line. She's definitely second, but she's.
If I had to argue, probably Juliana.
I don't know who Shevchenko fights next, but who knows?
Yeah.
If Ronda comes back, then maybe you have Pena versus Shevchenko for the number 1 contender spot.
Yeah.
That would probably be
Frontman comes back to soon.
All right. So, but let's start to wrap up here. We've been going for almost an hour, or maybe more. So let's talk about 201 and 202, and then we'll call it a wrap here. So let's talk about some of these fights. Some of these fights I don't care about. Some of them I do care about.
Yeah.
Let's go with 201, which is coming up next week on Saturday. For all of those who haven't been following UFC, it's coming up next Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. We're not talking about every fight. We're just going to talk about maybe the top 3 on these cards. So. We've got Namajunas versus Kowalski.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm saying her name right.
Namajunas versus
Kowalkiewicz. Kowalkiewicz? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, she's great.
Those Polish names.
Yeah, she's great. She just beat Ronda Marcos in her last fight.
Yeah.
I think she kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think people thought she was going to win that fight, and she did. She's 10-0. She's never lost. Namajunas. I always say her name wrong. Rose. I'm just going to call her Rose. Thug Rose is amazing. Yeah. I love her fights.
I love her.
I just love watching her fight. She just seems like a ninja in there.
Like what's that character from Mad Max? The new Mad Max. That's
Charlize Theron's character.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, she's just badass, man.
Especially since she's shaved her head.
Yeah, she is.
She's scary.
I
wouldn't want to fight her.
Yeah, she's coming off the destruction of. Tisha Torres, I think was her last fight.
Yeah.
Before that was Paige Van Sant, who she annihilated.
Yeah. I think I personally think Namajunas is gonna. I think she's gonna be champion one day.
They're still young. This strawweight division is super young.
Really young.
Yeah.
I think she's really creative and she's really aggressive. And she's really out there, and she really tries a lot of cool shit. She throws flying arm bars and a lot of.
So who you got in this fight?
I would say Namajunas for sure. I know Kowalkiewicz.
I've only seen Kowalkiewicz fight once.
I don't know
and
that
I
much
don't
about
know.
her
That's
either.
the thing. She's a wild card. She's undefeated.
Namajunas is a motherfucker.
She is. I feel like I want to just play devil's advocate and just go opposite here. And we'll do a point system just for everyone. This is our first time calling fights, so we're gonna do like a point system.
Yeah.
And maybe explain that in another episode. Yeah. But I think I'm just gonna go the opposite one here, and I'm going Kowalkiewicz.
All right.
I could be completely wrong. I've only watched her fight once.
Yeah.
I love Namajunas, but I don't know. It's a wild card, and I kind of want to go opposite just to see what this will happen. Yeah. Oh, here's a fight I absolutely don't care about. Matt Brown versus Jake Ellenberger. Ellenberger.
Yeah.
Who cares about Jake Ellenberger? I do not. I just think I'm surprised he's still in the UFC, considering I don't remember the last time he's won a fight. I can't
either. He definitely hasn't been doing well.
losses.
He hasn't been doing well, and he hasn't been looking good in most of his fights.
No,
I frankly don't understand. I think Matt Brown is way above him.
Okay, and here's I'm just going to call it right now. First round finish for Matt Brown. Just going there right away.
I don't want to say that, even though Brown is also a motherfucker.
Brown is a no joke.
Brown is and he's got power and he's tough as nails.
Yeah,
but
like his losses are against Damian Maia, Johnny Hendricks, and Robbie Lawler. His 3 last losses. Those are all I can. In all fairness, so is Ellenberger. I guess he's lost to Thompson, Rory McDonald.
But I think he lost to Gastelum too.
Yeah, see, and then you start to fall off.
But Gastelum's not bad.
No, Gastelum just beat Hendricks.
He's crazy too.
Yeah, just beat Hendricks. I mean, maybe the next fight you make, if Ellenberger loses this, is him and Hendricks. But I don't know. Hendricks has a win over Ellenberger. I'm not entirely sure. I think he does.
I believe so. Anyway. He does. I think that was the fight that he needed to get the number 1.
Contender spot
for the GSP
Okay, so
fight.
so then they haven't fought before, and
I'm pretty sure it was.
I just don't care about Jake Ellenberger. I don't hate the guy. I don't make it sound like but as a fan, like I've never gotten hyped up for any of his fights. I always assume he's losing.
But I will say Jake Ellenberger, when he did win and when he was winning back in the day,
yeah, but he's a prospect.
He has
power.
He
has power.
So
this is he still it? I don't know.
This has the elements for a barn burner fight of the night. It does have those elements. I'm not saying it's going to be, but Matt Brown has had fight of the night on so many occasions. Yeah. Jake Ellenberger has power. It could be. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm not going to count out Ellenberger entirely. I wouldn't be surprised, shocked out of my mind if he won.
Yeah.
Because given what's happened recently, all the upsets.
Yeah.
But I will say Matt Brown for sure.
Okay, and let's get to the main event here. Robbie Lawler versus Tyron Woodley. Now I want to say something before we begin. Tyron Woodley should not be challenging for the belt. He's a bum, and I do not like how he just sat out. He sat out. Okay, the last fight this guy had was maybe a year and a half ago against Kevin Gastelum on a split decision when Gastelum looked terrible and drained from missing weight. He barely won. Okay? He gets a split decision. He wins that fight. Goes on to maybe fight Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks misses weight, which has been a problem for him I don't know how many times now.
Yeah.
And is now awarded a title shot?
Yeah.
I get it. He beat Carlos Condit. Carlos got injured in that fight. And Carlos Condit got the title shot before. But Carlos Condit came back and was active. There's two fighters that definitely should be ahead above Tyron Woodley, which is Damian Maia, absolutely, and obviously Wonderboy Thompson, who I think is the number one contender and should be.
I think he's the number one contender.
But if Damian Maia was fighting that, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. I don't think I would have a problem with it. He's gone on like a 5-fight win streak or something like that.
Yeah, but who did he beat last?
He beat Matt Brown. He beat Matt Brown in his last fight. But before that, he'd beaten Magny. He'd beaten...
I don't disagree, but I think defeating Rory is more impressive.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I think Wonderboy should be
because you could argue...
And Wonderboy made the argument,
You could argue, like, before Rory got finished in that... in the Lawler fight, in the title fight, you could argue that Rory was winning 2 of those rounds.
Yeah.
So that it was 2-2 going into the fifth. Or when did it end? In the 4th or the 5th?
Which one?
The Lawler McDonald fight.
That went to the 5th.
Okay.
The 5th,
so yeah, so
and Rory was winning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Basically, you could argue that he was winning and could have potentially, if it wasn't for his nose shattering, might have been champion. You never know.
Oh man!
But with that said, I'm saying the fact that I was at the Stephen Thompson fight. Yeah, I was in Ottawa for that.
That's
fight.
right. You were there.
And
amazing fight. I mean, a lot of people shat on this fight, but I feel like you're not really paying attention to what's happening. Rory, to me, made a bunch of ridiculous mistakes. Wonderboy played his game, so people cannot get mad at Wonderboy for fighting the fight he fought to win.
Yeah,
it was a smart chess match. He did what he had to. I was surprised Rory didn't attempt one double under takedown or single leg. Nothing. Well, he did that weird little crawl move that Ryan Hall does. I don't know what that's called.
Well, it's a little bit more complex than that. What Rory was trying to do is he was trying to attack the legs and take his legs away because Stephen Thompson is a Taekwondo expert. Yeah. Okay, so he needs that bounce. He needs to be light on his feet, and he keeps his stance really wide, like Machida did. Which Shogun took advantage. Shogun saw that Machida karate style kept his lead leg out, so he said, "You know what? You're giving me a weapon. I'm going to destroy that piece of meat that you're giving me." Yeah. So he didn't do the leg kick thing like Shogun did, but what he was going for, but
it wasn't working.
And I'm assuming it's because John Danaher is a jiu-jitsu scientist. He's a genius. He works with Faraz a lot of the time, and he works with GSP in his camps. And I have a really good feeling that John Danaher probably helped Rory McDonald and tried to help him with leg locks, because that's what he's a specialist in, his leg locks. So that's
just
what
to wrap it up, because we're running out of time.
But that's what he was going for. He was going for leg locks.
Okay.
He was trying to do like a Husmar.
I think we saw it, but it wasn't working.
He was going for a Palhares thing. Like Stephen Thompson did say, it definitely threw him off.
Absolutely.
It threw him off 100%.
Yeah, but he adapted.
There's that, and he adapted to it, and he did what he needed to do, and he stood away.
That being said, back to my whole, Woodley should not be challenging for the belt. I stand by that. What I think he's going to do is try to make this a wrestling match. He's going to try to take Lawler down. If Lawler's takedown defense stands up, I see this ending in the second round with a knockout for Lawler.
Woodley is really is no slouch. He's a great fighter. He's explosive. I think that he fades after the first few rounds. Yep. And Lawler only gets stronger. Yep. Especially as of late.
Yeah, well, we saw that in the Carlos Condit fight earlier in the year. I mean, there was... I kind of had Carlos winning that fight, but he sold it in the 5th round, and the 5th round definitely was Lawler's. So he went at Carlos, and he just teed off, and that you end strong, you might win strong. So
and you can't. Like the thing is, Lawler's been in wars, and I don't know when that's going to catch up to him because he's been around for so long. Yeah, but he's not showing any signs of it catching up to him yet. So with that said, I say that Woodley only wins if he makes it a grinding, boring fight. Yeah. But Lawler's sprawling and experience is just too much, and I think he will finish him with a TKO or a submission in the third round, something like that.
And now, with that being said, we're going to jump to 202 and give our picks. This main card is a little bit more exciting, a lot more exciting. We're going to start off. I don't know if this is actually on the main card or not yet, but these are the fights that are the most interesting from our perspective.
Yeah.
We got Garbrandt versus Mizugaki.
Yeah.
I think Cody wins this fight.
Yeah.
Probably in first round fashion, like he did against Thomas Almeida. Kind of like how Dominic Cruz finished Mizugaki in that first round a couple of years back. I feel like that's how this fight's going to play out. But Mizugaki's no joke. He's been a top bantamweight for a long time, and we'll see what happens. I mean, who are you taking in this fight?
Garbrandt, for sure. I've met Cody Garbrandt at a bar in Toronto not too long ago, and I had a good conversation with him. He's a good kid. He really believes that he's going to be the champion. He believes in himself.
He kind of proved it with that Thomas Almeida fight. I had him losing that one, and
he's got really good skills, and he's got scary power for his weight class.
Yeah.
I have Garbrandt for sure. Mizugaki's not a joke, but I have Garbrandt for sure. If Garbrandt looks anything less than stellar, he will be further away from getting a title shot.
Yeah.
Than it seems like he is now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're surprised
even if he wins.
Yeah.
Like, even if he wins, but he grinds out a unanimous decision, I don't think he'll be that much closer to a title shot.
Are you surprised they didn't make the Garbrandt Caraway fight? I thought that was the fight to make for the number one contender.
I think Caraway...
I don't think he turned it down. You think he turned it down? He turns down a lot of fights.
That's I don't know. That's what I recall hearing.
Okay.
But again...
This was a fight that... But he's the guy who the fight that
I don't know
sense.
what kind of
This fight makes sense for him.
I don't know what kind of truth there is to that.
Yeah.
So, like... That would have been a good fight to make. Caraway's been doing well. He had a big win last time.
Aljamain.
Yeah.
That's all the shit Aljamain talk.
I mean, he's probably two more fights away from, talking about getting a title fight as well. So, but I'm gonna say Cody, and if he starches him, he could either get a title shot or be one more fight away.
All right, let's move on to Cowboy versus Rick Story.
Yeah.
Cowboy looked amazing against Patrick Cote.
Yeah.
I mean, it was...
Which is
and
scary.
you saw that fight, too.
I was there. And
you were there, too.
Which was scary because Cote is so much bigger than him. Like,
it didn't look like that on TV, but I mean, you saw it live.
If you look at them, like, lined up, like, their frames are so much... there's such a discrepancy in the size of their shoulders. Cote is a lot wider in the shoulders, and his frame is just way bigger. He's definitely a real 170.
But I still got Cowboy winning this one.
I do too.
Absolutely.
I do too, but Cowboy definitely was a lot smaller than Cote, and he just looked way better. And he looked like his power worked at that weight, and his speed was on point. So this fight, Story he's the horror story. He can be frightening. He's no jokes. Rick Story.
He's had some fights where you're like,
but he's tough as nails.
He is.
He's tough as nails. And
he's been a staple in that.
He's got power. Division. He's not bad. He's not a bad kid at all. He's
got a win over Johnny back in the day. I think he gave him his first loss.
Yeah, and but Cowboy I think is too crafty. I think he's too crisp on the feet, and I don't see this going to the ground at all.
Yeah.
And I think he's too fast, and I think his power still translates to this.
It's looking that way. I mean, the way he just manhandled Cote, it was...
I think Story might be too...
he's smaller than Cote, right?
Story is.
Yeah.
I think he's a little smaller. But I think Story's too tough to be finished in this fight. So I say Cowboy wins by a dominating unanimous decision on the feet.
So far, we're tied.
Like a striking clinic.
We're tied on this card so far. Rumble Teixeira. I think we're both going to pick the same person here.
Yeah.
Rumble. Yeah. I think Rumble wants revenge against what Teixeira did to Rashad Evans, which was a little sad to see. Rashad's been in that division for a long time. He's now moving down to middleweight.
Yeah.
And Rumble's really tight with Rashad, so this is going to be an emotional fight for him. And Teixeira, he's a class guy. I mean, he's literally that number 5 guy. I don't put him on the same caliber as Gustafsson, Rumble, or Cormier.
I don't either.
But he's just under there.
Yeah.
He's definitely above Bader and whoever's underneath that. So this is gonna be a fun fight. Who knows? Teixeira might have improved, and might give us something we haven't seen before.
Teixeira's really good. He's durable and he's like decently well rounded. But I feel like Rumble Johnson is like an infinitely better version of Teixeira. He's got more power.
Yep.
He's faster.
Yep.
He's more athletic.
Absolutely.
There's really no area other than maybe straight jiu-jitsu that I think Teixeira beats Rumble. Rumble even has better wrestling, I would say. Teixeira, if they were in a jiu-jitsu match with gis on, I think Teixeira would beat him. But
but that's not happening.
But that's not what this is.
Yeah.
So with that said, I say Rumble, and it's unfortunate because I think Teixeira. It sucks for Teixeira.
What if they got in a slugfest? That would be fun.
It could be crazy, but I think Teixeira will get killed if they go to a slugfest.
I mean, you
Anthony
still have
Johnson's
Bader, right?
power is monstrous.
I think Bader was just like laying out on the table like this.
But the problem with Teixeira that I feel bad for him is that he's in a division where like he's like 1+1 level math, and everyone else in the top 3-4 to me is like quantum physics. You know what I mean? Like it feels like he's good and he's well rounded and he's tough as nails, but he'll never be that really crisp creative striker or that that guy. So I'm gonna say Rumble, and I'm gonna say something like probably like a first or a second round KO, if not TKO. Okay. Something like that.
All right, we're almost done.
But I wouldn't be shocked if Teixeira landed something lucky and got like a submission, a Kimura or a rear naked choke or something.
Anything can happen, right?
So
anything can happen.
Yeah.
But we're about to wrap it up, guys. This is it. Last fight to call here. Diaz versus McGregor. Now, if you didn't watch the first fight, go back and watch the first fight because it was amazing.
If you didn't watch the first fight, I don't know why you're watching this.
Yeah, but go back and watch the first fight because it's amazing. And I did not think Diaz was going to win it. I actually do agree with Conor's assessment of the fight that he got tired and then Diaz completely took over from there.
I agree.
And
you're not going to
people are saying, "Oh, Conor had a full camp." Conor had a full camp, but he also had to gain weight. Literally, I think less than 2 weeks before the fight. I don't know what that does to the body, but I can't imagine it's a great thing. And he's just eating and eating and eating, and he didn't even make 170. He made 168. You know what I mean? That was him eating.
He didn't have to. I think he did it because he could.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like. And it sounded like he made it sounds like that's the number one mistake that he made.
I think gaining that kind of, because he was already in the middle of a weight cut. He was already in the middle of cutting down to 155.
Yeah.
And so to now all of a sudden, gain all that weight, because I think he walks around at 180. I think someone told me 180, 175 is what Conor kind of walks around at. So he'd already cut probably at that point to, who knows, in the 160s area.
Yeah.
I just think it was he did throw a lot of power shots and miss, which was bad. I am taking Conor in the rematch. I think Conor will win this fight. I think if he wins it, it's so good for the UFC. It is the real 200, which it always should have been.
Yeah.
So let's, I love Diaz too. I do love Diaz. I just don't think. And he's got a full camp this time, and people are saying, how can it be different? Each fight is different. Michael Bisping has proven that to everybody. So I'm going with Conor. I think Conor wins this one.
I think most people are calling, even MMA media are calling for Diaz to win again and win the same way. But I agree. I think McGregor is going to win, and I think he's going to learn from his mistakes. I think McGregor is too smart. I think he's too intelligent to make the same mistakes. And I think he's going to come in light, quick, full of energy and full of with good endurance and with a great training camp, like a normal training camp that you would normally see out of him when he fights at 145. Mm-hmm. And I don't see him getting tired like he did before. I don't see him headhunting like he was before, overpicking his shots. I mean, he brought in. If you've been watching, he's been releasing these videos called The Mac Life.
I actually haven't been watching that.
Yeah,
I should be watching that.
He's kind of doing like a Overeem style, like the Reem videos, like documentary style, but kind of just these artsy videos of him training and hanging out in LA or whatever. And long story short, he's been bringing in tall, lanky guys with really good endurance.
I mean, he's never
who
trained
are good boxers who are and southpaw for his boxing camp, which he said he didn't do. For his camp.
And this is a fair point. I mean, people don't give Conor enough credit. This guy has literally taken fights with ridiculous short amount of notice.
He has to be respected
and has
for that.
saved cards and when he talks about 2015 being his year and the UFC selling for what it did sell, he is a big reason for it selling for $4 billion.
He's certainly a part of it.
You don't have Rousey, you don't have Conor. I don't think this thing even gets sold. I think those two stars
helped push the sale.
Just definitely skyrocketed. I mean,
it's not
every sport is made up of stars, and this guy is the superstar in the sport.
Yeah.
You know, win or lose, he is still a champion in many people's eyes. And the way he handled defeat, in my opinion, I thought was amazing. It made everyone kind of look... and this is what I was trying to get at earlier. When Ronda Rousey loses, it's, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
My God, please don't put her in the ring again.
Yeah.
Because she might kill herself.
Yeah.
And then you have Conor, who loses and is just... I think he even still went out and partied that night because they were talking about celebrating and whatever. But at the end of the day, he still realizes you just brought in a ridiculous amount of money for that fight.
Yeah.
He alone saved that card, okay? Because Nate Diaz came in and he brought some numbers, but Nate Diaz does not pack the same amount of views as Conor McGregor. I don't care what anyone says.
He will now, though.
He will now, but before then, he needed Conor to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Nate's been in the UFC for, I don't know, like a decade almost? He's been there a long
does
time.
well. Like, he has a following. Like the Diaz brothers have a following, and I think that... But it's nowhere
But not in the mainstream like Conor. Not like Rousey.
No, it's more of like an underground fan kind of...
If Nate Diaz is main eventing a card, even now, I think he maybe sells 800
He's definitely
pay-per-view buys. 800,000 pay-per-view buys. That's me being generous.
Nate Diaz?
Yeah.
That's 800,000 is a lot.
I'm being generous.
That's absurd.
I know. That's what I said. Being really generous.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Conor alone.
No, I would say
Conor alone is $1 million. Conor, whoever he fights, is $1 million. That's what he's averaging now. In the last 3 fights,
or just under.
No, 189, I think, was just under $1 million.
Yeah.
Then the Jose Aldo fight that was
lately
over.
he's been getting getting close.
Then
to
the one in March, it's second to 100.
Yeah.
1.5.
Yeah. It's also storylines to that build fights.
Yeah.
So this is interesting in its own way. So I think that fact alone, the fact that he lost and now everything's exactly the same and they get to try it again. Because it was exciting, you know what I mean? Like, that round was a crazy round. He was taking his head off, and then he ran out of steam.
And that was it.
And that's it. So, and even on the ground, I know a lot of people want to shit on McGregor for his ground game not being good, but his ground game, the first time he was on the ground, like
when he took him down. In
the
first round?
Previously, it was actually good. He was doing. What he was doing was he was an X guard and he was trying to get one of his legs. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, of course.
But you can't. Listen.
Yeah.
A black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
The saying in jiu-jitsu is, every time you get punched in the head, you go down a belt.
Yeah.
That's the saying.
And he got rocked before he went down.
And he got rocked before he went down.
Yeah.
So he did make a big mistake. Yeah. He turned his head to the wrong side.
And he got caught.
Yeah, and it happens. And especially against the guy who's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was a kid. In Diaz. So, I think he's been doing a lot more ground. I think he's been doing a lot more boxing against the right opponents. And I'm going to say McGregor. And
Kavanaugh's calling 4th round.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's gone 4th round. I don't know. I'll wait to save that for another episode when we call the rounds.
I'm going to say, listen, this is a long shot because fucking anything can happen. Diaz could win this again. And then in the first round of the first 30 seconds, we don't know what the hell's going on. I give up trying to guess. But if I had to say, something tells me it's going to be 3rd or 4th TKO McGregor.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to be a shot that rocks with follow-up shots, and then Herb Dean, whoever it is going to step in and say that's enough.
Okay, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for watching the first episode of The Grind. That is Bryan Fontez, I am Sunnie James, and we are out.
We don't know when we're going to be back. Might be a weekly thing.
We'll
see what happens.
We'll see what happens.